So to say, individual Atma comes from Paramatma and then merges with Paramatma at the time of liberation. So, if you see the entire uh, transition, whether it is human body, prana, mind, intelligence, or Atma, is only a transition which is short term and temporary. This we must understand. Now we are going to the third part of the poem, that is Yavvani Andu Dindu, the meaning of which is in whom the universe dwells. Even though we know that atom is breakable, for all practical purposes, let's start with atom as the simplest particle for our consideration. We know that atoms are the basic building blocks of ordinary matter. As a matter of fact, atoms themselves are made of subatomic particles called quarks. Quarks are the subatomic particles responsible for neutrons and protons, which makes nucleus of an atom. Atoms join together to form molecules, and in turn molecules join together to form most of the objects we see around. This we have seen earlier also. Now atoms, molecules, cells, tissues, organs and organ systems are the body's building blocks. The structure of an atom is depicted there. As we see, structure of an atom is made up of three tiny kinds of subatomic particles called protons, neutrons and electrons, as you see in the picture. The protons and the neutrons make up the center of the atom called the nucleus, and the electrons fly around above nucleus in a small cloud. Well, these are some of the technical aspects of structure of an atom. An electron moves at such a speed that it can go around the earth in just over 18 seconds. The approximate speed is 2200 kilometers per second. This is just for information. Now let us see the grandeur of nature. We see that in every atom, which is very small, you see the electrons orbiting the nucleus. This is in the smallest scale. Now when we look at cosmos, we see in our solar system all the planets are orbiting around the sun. We go little further, it is astonishing to hear that our solar system is also orbiting around the center of our galaxy, the Milky Way, which we have seen earlier, the Milky Way picture. It does not stop here. The Milky Way also orbits around local cluster, which in turn orbits our Virgo supercluster, and our Virgo supercluster also orbits around a great attractor which we do not know. So this is on a bigger and massive scale beyond the horizon of human mind. That means everything is rotating around the other. The rotation, they are on a time scale of millions and millions of years, and the distances go up to billions of light years. The beauty is that from the smallest to the biggest, we see an orderly behavior. Everything is systematically designed and functioning. Sometime back, I have read an article in newspaper that Earth rotation is delayed by 1 second in a year of rotation. What a marvelous accuracy of functioning and measurement. We have studied and understood the properties of various metallic and non-metallic substances. That's fine, but who defined or attributed these properties in the first place? Do we know? We are still finding some new species hitherto unknown to the world. Electricity, gravity, magnetism, atomic energy, and many more were there even before they were discovered by mankind. Even now, we are not sure what happens after death. And doctors, when they lose all the hope, they say only God can save the patient. Our range of existence and knowledge is still very negligible compared to the cosmic intelligence and knowledge. Recent scientific revelations, such as presence and domination of dark matter and dark energy, which constitute around 95% of the total matter and energy in the universe, are some of the new revelations to mankind. This is declared by scientists. Added to that, it is revealed through science that our universe is expanding at an accelerated pace and the whole fabric of space is being stretched further. The reason attributed to this is the presence of dark matter and dark energy. Our great scientists are trying to obtain knowledge to that knowledge to the mankind. Acceleration of universe stretching the space fabric is another mystery to scientific community. So it is, as the saying go, that the more we know, we come to know about the more we do not know. In the picture titled Orbiting, you see on the top moon orbiting the earth, and the time taken is 27.32 days. Now coming to the solar system, earth orbits sun in 365.25 days, which we know. And go to the next this one, our solar system itself orbits center of Milky Way in around 230 million years, which is a very large time span. So even our Milky Way also orbits, as I said earlier. So like this, at the center you see electrons orbiting the nucleus of an atom. So like this, you see very orderly behavior, which shows some intelligence behind all this. Like this, I have added a caption that every life is orbiting around God, knowingly or unknowingly, which is a fact. The picture you see on the composition of the universe, which we have already discussed about dark matter and dark energy presence. So, as you see in the picture, the ordinary matter constitute only around 5%, and dark matter constitute about 25%, and dark energy constitute about 70% in the universe. This is a recent revelation. So it is really an astonishing finding. Well, so far we have discussed on grandeur of nature. Now we are going into the grandeur of life. As we said, cells are the most basic units of life. The human body is composed of trillions of cells. Scientists estimate that the average cell contains around 100 trillion atoms. Every day, many millions of cells are born to compensate the quantum of cells die in each day. We are never aware of it since it is an ongoing mechanism in our human body. So to say, we do not know what is happening in our human body on a subtle scale. We even do not know when the fertilization took place, being the proud father and mother. Only when we come to know about the same, when there are symptoms generated and a doctor confirms the same. We really do not understand the complex mechanism of human body and also the full potential of human birth. So to say, we are like a small worm crawling in a very small confined area, living for a very tiny spectrum of life. And the real hero of this cosmic game is the one who is running the show of cosmos with life in it, on whose order the Big Bang has happened, on whose order stars and galaxies have formed, on whose order the life cycle is happening on earth as we know, on whose order the nature is behaving the way it is, on whose order everything is happening in the universe and beyond. He is the dwelling reality, and he is the one and only one with everything within him, both static and dynamic entities. This is just an illustration of territories, the picture which you see there. That means every life form has a territory. You see on the picture spider on a wall. We normally see a spider in our sometimes in our home. The spider gets birth on the wall and then lives on the wall and then dies on the wall. The wall is its territory. Like that, a rat in a house and a dog in a locality, a bird in a region, a whale in the sea, man in the solar system, personal God in the universe, absolute God in the universe and beyond. This is just to indicate what are the territories of different life forms. When I say personal God, I mean to say the God which has name, form, and traits. We know different believers of thinking have their own personal gods. And the absolute God means a God which has no form, no name, and no traits. He is beyond all these boundaries. There is also a caption: conquer ignorance and set yourself free with no boundaries. This world is full of life forms, as we know. Our scientific community is yet to establish presence of life outside the world, outside this world, or anywhere in the universe, in spite of their best efforts. It is said that several millions of life forms exist, and new ones are also discovered from time to time. Some of the life forms are already declared extinct, and some are in the process of extinction. Now, each of the life form has its own lifestyle and has a reach. Reach means sort of a territory. They have their own territories in which they are born, live, and die. We see in our daily life that a spider is mostly confined to a wall in the house and that is its world. A rat is confined to a house and so on. A little worm in our stomach takes birth, live and dies in the stomach. So stomach is its world and it may not be aware of the outside world. Are we different from that? Principally, we are not different since the earth, or for that matter, our solar system in which we are confined, is a tiny dot in the universe. Yes, we are different relatively in our reach. Our reach is highly vast compared to the reach of other life forms, but at the same time, our reach is microscopic compared to the mega size of the universe. All this is on the physical plane. If we consider the mental plane, we are much different from all other life forms in principle also, since we are able to discriminate between good and bad. We are able to think about the presence of concept called God, leave alone whether we accept it or not. There are no boundaries which can restrict expansion of human mind given the will and effort. It can take us to the highest level of consciousness where we are in face to face with God. This way, we are unique and superior in this world among all life forms. That is why it is said that man is materialistically nothing but spiritually everything. For non-spiritual people who is not aware of the fundamental concept of universal brotherhood, power means position, influence, dominance, authority, etc. We see people craving for power in our day to day life. No doubt that without some sort of power, things cannot be controlled and put in order. Even nature also has in command some kind of power to keep the world going, like cycle of weather conditions, gravitational force of earth and mass of our sun to retain the planetary system in order. But to understand what real power means, we have to go little bit beyond the above. Control of impulses, that is restraint, and control of our mind need greater power. Let us say somebody abuses us. Naturally, our impulse acts on us, we lose control and immediately abuse back or pick up quarrel with them. This is an instant response, and many times we feel we could have at least downgraded our response. The real power in this case is to show restraint, thereby overpowering the impulse. Normally, such quality is exhibited by people with spirituality background, or maybe by some people who have practiced restraint, which in turn is the philosophy of spirituality, that is, control of our inner forces. Well, we have many examples of restraints shown by great souls during adversity which has moved the world. One great example is Lord Jesus during the brutal act of crucifixion. Imagine how much of restraint is required to forgive the people responsible for this heinous crime. Such great souls possess different class of power which is beyond the conception of an ordinary person. Giving life is a more powerful act than taking life. He only is empowered to take life as a person who is empowered to give life, and he is none other than Creator himself. Helping a person is more powerful than harming a person. Being positive requires more willpower than being negative. Being detached requires more resolution than being attached for generations, and it can go on like this. Which power we require is our choice. Now we are moving to the next part of the poem, Parameswarudu Evadu, the meaning of which is who is the supreme divine power. When we use the word supreme, it means it is ultimate and nothing beyond that. If anything is there beyond that, then it is not supreme. In a layman's language, we may call it as number one. We often heard about this number one game and the struggle that is going on in the world. Be it a country, a state, or a city, an individual, etc., this game goes on. We regularly see information about the richest person in the world, number one in sports, cine field top stars, and industrialists, top industrialists, and so on in various fields of activities. We also see dominant countries exercising their muscle to rule over the world. This domination is not only confined to humanity but also seen in all life forms. In a way, it is a fair game as long as it is in the interest of the world and the field of the activity. But it does not happen like that when the rules of the game are changed to suit convenience or when individuals resort to unfair practices in order to cling to number one spot. The amount of destruction and the extent of loss of life in the world due to interference from dominant countries undermine the very civilization of mankind. It's a pity that no courts can handle this loss of innocent life and property, but one must remember they cannot escape the fruits of their wrongdoing in the divine court. We have to remember that time never stops for anybody, or for that matter, any country. History shows that different countries were dominating the world at various points of time. If this happens to countries, the same thing applies to individuals also. We must understand that every number one at some point of time, however long it may be, has to meet with fate of old age and ultimately meet with death inevitably. In other words, becoming zero. This picture, lifespan, is a reminder to all of us that day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, life is shortening. So, I have also added a caption that race against time to get to the truths of knowledge. This is where we have to think and understand who the real number one is. If this is to be understood, one has to commence his journey towards spirituality. Spirituality only shows the path towards understanding his own reality. It gives clarity on what is truth, which is everlasting, and what is illusion, which is masking the truth. The individual who comes face to face with truth is the real number one. For him, this concept of number one itself ceases, as he does not see anything which is not him. He becomes infinity, and that infinity we call it as God. God is everlasting, and He is one and the only one who is supreme. For a frog in the well is its world. For humanity, earth is the world, and for an individual, exposure of mind is his world. For Almighty, maybe this universe and beyond is his world. Everything is the perception of the mind, but the dimensions vary relatively from tiny to infinity. We all know that there is a limitation to growth of our physical bodies as defined by destiny, with inherent variability in most of the cases and abnormal variability in rare cases. That is, we know about DNA. An ant can never attain the size of a rat, and vice versa. To that extent, at least, there is a limitation in size. But this is not the case of our mind. There is no limitation to the horizon of our minds. Only limitation is how much we can stretch with our will, imagination, in other words, creativity, and sustained effort. With all the technological development as of date, science humbly admits that it is still a far cry even to think of reaching the nearest star, that is Alpha Centauri, to our solar system, which is 4.37 light years away. We are still in an infant stage to explore our universe. On the other hand, we have all the means and capability to explore our inner world. It is through the control, stretch, and use of the mind in a cyclic process we can explore the inner world. The concept of above diagram indicates a series of energy centers aligned along the spinal cord, and normally the seat of power is at the bottommost chakra called Muladhara, and when it is dormant, our consciousness is materialistically dominated. When we raise the seat of power through each chakra higher and higher through spiritual practices, new worlds of consciousness opens up to our shock and awe, and till it reaches the highest chakra, it retains duality. That means you and Almighty are perceived to be different. The moment the seat of power pierces through Sahasrara, your real nature is realized at once and monism is achieved. You and Almighty are perceived to be one. At this point of time, the merger takes place and the individual mind is dissolved. The above diagram illustrates the weather cycle which brings water from sea to land, flows through canals and rivers before finally reaching the sea again, which is its birthplace. The same analogy holds good to our lives also. You see in the diagram, there is a caption: our true nature is like the sky, and the confused mind, the clouds. Remember, the clouds are not the sky and do not belong to it. It is true that what we are today is the resultant effect of all our previous births. Whatever is the condition of existence in this birth is. Life is a continuous journey of birth and death till the cycle is broken. In that case, when we commenced our journey, start of birth number one, we would not have any resultant effect, good or bad, since we have only started now to start performing karma, which is the seed of effect. That means we were not bound by samskaras, that is zero resultant effect, and we know that only God is not bound. So, at the time of commencement of our journey or prior to that, we should have been in God's abode. Being in God's abode is what is called moksha, and we have started from there, which is our real home. We have left the home in order to gain experiences of the glory of God. It is a grand design of some supernatural natural power that has all the noble and evil things in this world. Once the cycle starts, our true identity gets changed through name, form, and traits. Whatever be the name, form, and traits, we have a constant inner urge to go back to our real home, but the effect of Maya conquers us and makes us forget about the same and get entangled in the worldly living. We continue this journey under the influence of Maya as long as the inner urge remains dormant. Nevertheless, when time comes based on experiences gained, the inner urge gains momentum and evolves as a force to reckon with Maya. When the inner urge overpowers Maya, there is no looking back and the journey back towards real home, that is moksha, starts. As we have said, that for any soul, beginning and ending is the same. Starting from God's abode, every soul has to reach back God, which is a certainty. Only the path varies and accordingly time varies. One soul may take n number of births and another soul may take x number of births. That means before reaching God's abode, where n and x are variables representing any two different numbers. The nature of births, in other words, condition of existence, taken in path n and path x may be different, and the time taken also may be different. But one thing is certain, that both in path n and path x, the last birth have to be that of human being, because that is the only gateway for realizing God and reaching God's abode through spiritual sadhana. Never mind what we are and where we are now, three things are important. First, we have to ensure that we are not stand still. That means due to lack of awareness, we are stand still. It should not be the case, and we have to keep moving. We have to try to keep moving. Number two, we have to ensure that we are moving in the right direction, that is towards the truth, because backtracking is also a possibility. If we are performing good deeds, we are moving in the right direction, and if we are performing bad deeds, we are moving in the wrong direction. Sigma of all the good and bad will determine whether, as a result of that birth, we have spiritually progressed, or in the same place, that is very less probability, or we have backtracked. Third thing is at what speed we are moving also decides at what time we reach the destination. Definitely, it is better to be stand still or move slower than to move fast if we are moving in the negative direction. It is better to move slowly than to be stand still if we are moving in the right direction. Obviously, the faster the better. Now, coming to comparison, one need not compare his spiritual status with others, as up and down can happen to any person and anywhere in the path. Also, also speed can be increased with more willpower and effort. For example, a person going to Delhi from Bangalore may have traveled half the distance by train, but another passenger who is boarding the flight just at that time reaches Delhi much earlier. Somebody may throw up a question: does in reality God exist? And if yes, what is the proof? Well, it's a great question, and we will try to dwell upon that. First of all, let us understand what we mean by existence. Do I really exist is a question. The answer is yes, because I am alive. I am talking about myself. So, my birth date is 24th March 1957. If you ask me if I existed in the year 1955, the obvious answer is no. But the real answer is both. It is yes and no at the same time, depending on what is my identity. If I identify myself with the name, form, and traits I possessed, the correct answer is no, as I cannot have the same name, form, and traits before my birth. On the other side, if I identify myself with the soul, then I existed very much in 1955 also, maybe with different name, form, and traits, or with some other birth of lower animals. So, if a question is asked about existence of a thing which undergoes changes over a period of time, the immediate reaction comes: when or in what time limits. When a question is asked about the existence of an entity which never changes, then the reaction comes that it is always there, as it is permanent and never changeable. So, the entity which never changes is fundamental to existence itself, and the name given to it is soul, and God is the union of all individual souls, which is called universal soul. You see the diagram there, my body parts. You see, we show our hand and say it is my hand, it is my leg, it is my nose, it is every part is mine, it is my intelligence, my mind, and my energy, everything, my eyes, like that. Then, who am I? Can I say it is my soul? No, it is wrong. It is not my soul, but soul is me. So, soul is the real existence which is eternal. Here we have to understand what it means. Imagine a person is given a name X. He gets associated with it and responds to the to call of that name. He considers that all other names are not his. Even if he is associated with, say, three names, he identifies himself with those three names, and his response is confined to those three names only. On the other hand, a person who is not associated with any name or names, then all names is his and he can be called by any name. We all know that name is given for identity when confined with limitations. Same thing follows for form and attributes. A person with bad attributes fall on the bad side and cannot be simultaneously on the good side for the same attributes. A person who has acquired a form is differentiated with other forms. Imagine what name, form, and attributes can be given to an entity which is all pervading and is the cause for all actions. It's a pity that we who are tiny or minuscule in that all pervading entity are trying to define something which is beyond the limits of our imagination. Still, after all, we have to give a name for our communication, and the name given is God. Specifically, different people call this very God by different names, give different forms to their liking, and also given different attributes depending on their lifestyles and beliefs. Nothing is wrong in this, and everything represents some form of truth which is God. In the picture, you see from the same raw material, different shapes and colors are made. Well, some people may ask when God is one without any name, form, or traits, why we should have so many gods, so many shapes, and so many traits? Let us see the answer through concept of idol worship. Whenever we go to functions, we are offered good food with variety of items. Sometimes the variety will be so much it is difficult to choose which item to take and in what quantities. We are quite obvious of the reasons for the variety. So many people will be coming for the function and each of them will have their own likings. It is the aim of the organizers of function to satisfy all the people at the same time. So, you must be able to make a complete food out of the items chosen by you from among the availability, and then only you are satisfied and remember for a long time the pleasant experience you had. We must remember that the ultimate experience of all the people had is the satisfaction, even though they have eaten items according to their taste. In the same way, different persons have different beliefs and are attracted towards different shapes, sounds, and methods of prayers. The essence of all this is devotion and spiritual progress. No form, sound, and method are superior and none inferior. The progress purely depends on the belief and the efforts put in. If an individual follows one discipline but get convinced that another discipline will be more suited for him, what is wrong in changing discipline according to his wishes as long as it is voluntary in nature? This is the reason we see so many gods, so many images of gods in some disciplines and very few or no images in other disciplines. Both the disciplines have their own advantages and disadvantages, and all of them lead to the same destination but through different paths. Rest assured that every belief leads you to the truth, and what is essential, what is really required has to come from you. It is in you, and that is total submission to your belief. You don't even need to waste your time looking at the other belief to see if it may be superior. It will be a futile exercise and you may land up nowhere. Ultimately, we have to understand that all the names, forms, and attributes come from the same source called impersonal God. We have seen the picture earlier and go back to Him at the end. The so called impersonal God does not have any name, and hence all the names belong to Him, and so are the case with form and attributes. However, we may use the name, form, and attributes for initial progress until we keep progressing in our spiritual efforts.